The cell door slammed shut with the sound of finality. Some said Graythorn Prison was where hope went to die, but tonight, in cell 42, a man was whispering his last wish. Not to escape, not to live again, but to be remembered. For the truth he'd never told. Somewhere, under the hum of fluorescent lights and dripping pipes, something waited unfinished. And by dawn, Graythorn would never sound the same again. Elias Ward had been here for 15 years, a lifetime carved into stone and silence. Once he wore a badge Detective Ward of the Harbor Precinct. Now he wore chains that rattled louder than his name. Each day began with the same gray routine, the clang of metal trays, the slow shuffle of boots, the guards' echoing shout. But Elias carried something the others didn't, a stillness that made even the guards uneasy. He never raised his voice, never begged, never broke. His cell walls were covered with faint scratches, dates, perhaps, or memories. Each mark told a story of a man who refused to forget. Some said he'd killed his partner. Others whispered that he took the fall for someone powerful. Only Elias knew the truth, and he wasn't telling. But every night, when the world sank into dark silence, his lips moved. Not in prayer, not in confession, but in remembrance. He whispered a name, Ava, and with that whisper, a faint smile would cut through the gloom before fading like breath on cold glass. That night, something different happened. A new prisoner arrived young, nervous, eyes too clean for this place. The guards called him Rookie. They threw him into the cell across from Elias. The kid barely lasted an hour before he started talking. Stories spilled out crime, betrayal, and fear. But one word caught Elias's attention. "Harbor case," the boy said. He didn't notice Elias freeze. Elias turned slowly, voice low and graveled. "What did you say?" "The Harbor case. My boss said it's reopening. Something about a missing file. Some detective took the fall back then. Elias Ward, I think. You heard of him?" The hum of the lights grew louder. Elias didn't answer. He just stared through the bars, eyes burning with something the kid couldn't name. In that silence, the weight of 15 years shifted. Somewhere inside him, the last piece of restraint cracked. If anyone's still listening, Elias thought, his voice trembling within, they'll want to hear what happens next. The young prisoner Noah didn't understand why Elias suddenly began asking questions about files, about officers, about a woman named Ava Rourke. Ava had been Elias's partner, bright, fearless, and the one person who believed in him. 15 years ago, when the Harbor Diamonds vanished from police custody, suspicion had turned to Elias. The evidence was perfect. Too perfect. Ava disappeared 2 days later. "They said she ran," Elias whispered. "But she didn't. She was silenced." Noah shivered. "By who?" Elias's gaze met his. "That's what they buried me here for." That night, when the prison slept, Elias pulled a rusted piece of wire from the base of his cot. He'd kept it for years not to escape, but to hold on to something that could never be taken. Intent. He scratched new lines into the wall, carving letters this time. Each line was a message, a name, a truth, a confession waiting to be heard, and with each motion, the air in cell 42 grew heavier, the sound of metal whispering secrets into the dark. The next morning, the warden himself appeared outside Elias's cell, a rare sight. "Ward," he said, voice low, "you've got a visitor." Elias hadn't had one in years. They led him down the hall, chains dragging against the floor like slow thunder. In the visitor's booth sat a woman in her 40s, composed, distant. She wore a simple gray coat and gloves too fine for the place. When she looked up, Elias forgot to breathe. "Ava," he whispered, but it wasn't her. The woman smiled faintly. "My name's Claire Rourke. Ava was my sister." The world tilted. "She left something," Claire continued, sliding a thin envelope through the glass. "She wanted you to have this if she didn't make it." Elias's hand trembled as he opened it. Inside was a folded photograph, him and Ava, standing by the harbor, sunlight on their faces. And on the back, a single line in Ava's handwriting. "Find the truth, even if it kills you." Below that, a location, a locker number, long sealed in the precinct evidence room. The guards pulled him away, but Elias's pulse roared louder than their shouts. For the first time in 15 years, he had something more powerful than hope-proof. That night, the whisper of his last wish returned. Not for mercy, not for peace, but for justice. Elias spent the next week preparing. He traded his food for paper, his quiet for rumors. Every guard, every inmate had a price. Noah, the new kid, became his messenger. One night, under the cover of lights out, Elias pressed a folded note into Noah's palm. "If you ever get out, find that locker. Bring what's inside to Claire Rourke. Tell her..." Elias kept his word. Noah hesitated. "You're not coming with me?" Elias smiled, a shadow of something almost kind. "Some of us are meant to leave the story, others to finish it." The next morning, a riot broke out in the West Block. Some said it was planned, others said it just happened. But amidst the chaos, a single figure moved with purpose, Elias Ward, walking calmly toward the warden's office. The guards shouted, alarms blared, but Elias didn't stop. He reached the office, slammed the door behind him, and locked it. The warden's face went pale. "You don't want to do this, Ward." Elias laid the photo of Ava on the desk. "I already did." Then he slid something else across a confession form, but not his. The signature at the bottom belonged to the deputy, Commissioner, the man who'd framed him. "You kept this hidden," Elias said, "but not anymore." The warden's hand went for the radio. Elias shook his head. "Don't. This isn't a threat. It's a trade." "Trade?" My silence. For her truth. The warden's gaze hardened, then softened. He'd seen too many men break in too many ways. But this wasn't madness. It was purpose. Elias knew he wouldn't survive the night. But truth had its own kind of freedom. By dawn, the riot ended. Smoke still lingered in the air. Cell 42 was empty. Later, in the precinct across town, a sealed locker was opened under new orders. Inside, a small recorder, a badge, and a letter. The recording played through static and breath. "This is Detective Ava Rourke. If this is found, it means I didn't make it. The diamonds were never stolen. They were evidence proof against our own." The tape ended there, but it was enough. Names fell. Truth rose. And somewhere on the prison's cold stone wall, the last scratch spelled out the words, "My last wish was never freedom. It was the truth." A month later, Claire Rourke stood outside the newly shuttered Graythorn gates. Wind whispered through the chain links, carrying the faint sound of dripping water like a heartbeat fading into the distance. She placed a single photograph against the bars, Elias and Ava by the harbor. And on the back, she wrote one line in fresh ink. He kept his last wish. The sky hung gray, neither mourning nor forgiving, only watching. And somewhere, deep in the silence of Graythorn, the hum of the lights carried on steady, endless like a soul that refused to disappear.